Good afternoon. I am April Jackson, Communications and Marketing Manager for the City of Little Rock. I also serve the office of your friend Scott Jr. And welcome to our small business panel discussion about scaling. We'll let the panelists go ahead and introduce themselves, and I will be your moderator for the afternoon. We've got some questions for them, and then we'll have some time at the end for you guys to ask them some questions. So we'll start right here to my immediate left. We'll have you introduce yourself, tell the people what tools and businesses that you have, and then we'll go down the line consecutively.
Hello, everybody. My name is Imhotep Tempak. I'm president of BAMI Technologies. We are a small business dedicated for electrical integration and electrical contracting. When it comes to automation, building automation, air conditioning automation, to manufacturing automation, that's the area that we press an envelope on. We've been in business since 2018. We actually incorporated in 2017, but at the time I was working for another company out of Missouri. So we finally started business in mid-2018. And it's been a hurdle, startup, and slowly working with the PTAC and SBA help over there to have Jerry and Susan. They really spearheaded our progress in many ways, which we're going to have a time to discuss that for the panel. So I don't want to hold on too long, but pass it on to April.
Hi, I'm April Broderick. I'm the president of A&A Fire and Safety Company. We started out doing just fire extinguishers and kitchen systems, and then we've expanded into fire sprinklers and fire alarms, and we've expanded into general constructions. We have our general contractor's license, and all of that is very new. It's definitely a part of our growth and scaling up with partnering with the SBA and all of their partners that they use. So.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eric Nelson from Nelson Intelligence Solutions. We're a geospatial information system, or some people call it geospatial intelligence systems. We do a lot of GIS work for the federal government. We have offices in Stafford, Virginia, as well as here in Little Rock, Arkansas. We're in the process of changing our headquarters to Little Rock, Arkansas. We've been in business since 2016. March 2016. When we talk about GIS side or NIS as a whole, we have basically two business units where one side is professional services, where we have a number of different analysts or subject matter experts that sit within the government facilities. 90% of those actually have clearances and support the government. And our other production aspect, the production business unit, right here in Arkansas, we do a lot of geospatial updating of that geospatial data, cleansing of that data for our main customers in national geospatial programs. Footprint here is growing. It's great. I'm originally from Arkansas, so it's great to be back home. We are a service and safety on small business. Recent 8A, thank you all from SBA, and let's get through that process. We'll mention the city, and we look forward to what the 8A is going to bring. It's very recent 8A, so we look forward to that.
So before we get deep into the conversation, just wanted to take a moment to make sure everyone understood what scaling their business meant. This is just a very generic definition of what scaling means, but that means making sure that your business is at a space where it has support to grow as a company, that you have taken the steps and plans required to garner some funding, get the right systems and staff and things in place, including technology and partners. So that's going to help guide our conversation for today. So as we get ready to dive into that, and just to acknowledge, we had one panelist that couldn't be with us this afternoon. His name's David Hunter. He's the president of Epic Technicians. He may be able to join us a little bit later, but we're going to go ahead and get the discussion started. So for each of the panelists, and again, we'll start here to my immediate left. When you were just beginning your business journey, how did you decide on the type of business you wanted to create?
Well, for me, it wasn't so much of a discussion because I started early on. at a very young age, 12 years old, electrical work. So my parents put me in school with electrical emphasis at a very young age. Obviously, with my accent, if not all of you have noticed, I'm not from here. So I hope so. I have noticed. But so born and raised in Cameroon, we have a whole different school system where by the time I graduated high school, you're ready for workplace, ready for electrical plumbing. So all that helped me when I came to America about 13 years ago. I worked for some contractor locally, and I noticed things that I used to do back home that I can no longer do here because the field was so specialized. If you do this, don't do that. So I started working with some local company, and after I graduated, I worked for a few companies first, but you work and there comes a time where you ask yourself, is it really what you want to do? Can you take a step back and do what you initially intended to do or what you think you're good at? For me, it was electrical work, it was electrical integration, and that's what I was doing for other company. So making a decision in switching, in moving back to Arkansas and open a company, it was what I wanted to open a company was not a question. For me, the question was more for the family. So I had my family from here, from Little Rock. I took the family to Missouri for 3 years, and it was growing for the family. So family was really one of the key factors to make me move to Arkansas, so we can be close to the grandparents on my wife's side. And again, choosing the business was easier because I basically grew up with it. So I didn't have to adapt with different field. So for me, it was natural. If I want to do a business, it would be in electrical because that's what I know. That's what I've been doing. So I'm not sure if my example will apply to many people, a few perhaps, but my suggestion would be to pick what you think you're best at or what you think you can excel at, so to speak. Even if it's not something that you were brought up with, but something that you really think that you excel at it, because that's the first. If you go after money first, usually, you get it, but you will feel like you're actually working. The last thing you want to do is to feel like you're working. If you do what you like, you never work of your life. So that's how it was fun.
Thank you, April.
Okay. My dad started this company in 1994. He was a Little Rock firefighter. So this was, when he started it, it was a very small side business. He did not envision it growing to kind of be full-time. He kept his career with the fire department the whole time. So I started working for the company when I was in college age. And then in 2014, I took over majority ownership. But of course, in 2014, we all experienced 2008 and the economic downturn. Well, since we were, it was just a very, very small part-time business. Most of the customers were mom and pop type businesses, not chains. Well, that too got hit the hardest when 2008 happened. So we were a cause and effect. So it really, really impacted A&A Fire and Safety at that time. So then fast forward, when I took over, that was still real prevalent in my mind, what happened in 2008. So that's when I wanted to kind of diversify and not just have small commercial, but some chain type businesses that were maybe more stable, and some government customers, state customers, industrial, and kind of go the whole spectrum. So if one industry's bad, hopefully the others are good. So that was kind of what led me to the SBA and certifications in order to help me with the government customers. And then just again, as a cause and effect, once I was in with the SBA and I started getting some federal contracts, it helped us to grow and then have the means and the revenue to expand internally and get some more equipment, be able to do some more specialized fire protection things, which kind of led to the construction. And then as just a general, what happened is most companies were getting bought out by big investors in the fire protection world. So the end user, the customer, wanted one company that could come in and do everything, the fire extinguishers, the fire alarm, the fire sprinkler. So we were starting to lose customers, not because we did a bad job, but just because they're busy and they want one phone call with one name. And so I was kind of at a a turning point, and so I chose to go for it and use some of our other things, our joint venture in construction to help catapult us in, and that's when we expanded into sprinklers. So that one was it was always kind of in the back of my mind, but just the industry kind of changed, and that's what really made us expand into all that we do now.
Jotting down some notes here. Hopefully you guys are taking the same notes I am. There will be a quiz at the end. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Eric, go ahead.
In early 2000, I actually was an acquisition officer on the other side. I was so for Marine Corps Systems Command, which dealt with buying all the computer systems and software for the Marine Corps. They introduced us as acquisition officer there, their process to start doing that type of work. In doing that, I was looking at some of these companies and how great of a life they was living in the early 2000s. Some of the stories and some of the checks I had to write at the time was crazy. And I was like, I can do that. But yet still I had about 10 more years before I retired. But that was my first introduction to the actual acquisition side of the house. I went on to further, of course, got my bachelor's in business, but I actually got my master's in acquisition. And to further move on from that. Worked for a small business for 5 years, doing the same thing that we do at NIS. It was based out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. At one time, we had sat down and talked about NIS starting when I was with them. And I think they thought that we would become more of a competitor than anything, so they backed out. And when we decided to go our separate ways, I took the business plan that I worked on for long and dusted it back off and started NIS.
Okay, so just a little bit of recap or some similarities that I hear in you all's stories. There was niche areas that they decided they wanted to focus in on and start their small business, but then they also kept up with the economic landscape of what was happening and adapted what they were offering to what was needed at that time. And shameless plug, as you know, the city is members of the chamber. They brought their love and their family and their businesses back to Little Rock. So please, if you love Little Rock, stay here, invest here, grow here. You can tell Jay Cheshire that I'm doing my due diligence as a Little Rock ambassador to keep you all here. So just segueing from there into some of the things that you guys did learn from the Small Business Administration. This question specifically is for David and Emo. Tell us what specific resources most help you to scale and what tips or advice do you have for those just starting out?
Well, the first resource I'll say is your dedication. Your dedication first, and that you're also going to need external resource. And in my case, what helped us scale to where we are at now, in many ways can be attributed to the SBA. That's it over there. They did a great job in putting us in contact with the contracting officer, in really advocating for our cause, and talking to them, having meetings, sitting, and learn for the process how we can undertake some of these contracts. That was a major key in helping us. Additionally to that, when I say one has to have his own drive, you have to be able to network if there's an event such like this one, be able to come out. I know you take time out of your day, which could be doing something else for your business, but keep in mind, this is also your business. It's also some things that you do to expand your network, so to speak. So yeah, the SBA was pivotal for our scaling and some of the work that we did in-house. But again, they can't help you by themselves, so you have to do the bulk of the work. They can take you there, but you ultimately will be the one taking a step forward. So yes.
I don't know, I think I referenced David, but
yeah.
I meant Eric. Eric, can you speak to that as well?
Yes.
You need to repeat the question?
Please.
Sure. What specific resources have most helped you to scale, and what tips or advice do you have for those just starting out?
I mean, as he spoke of also, it's relationships, honestly speaking. Relationships and having these conversations and utilizing SBA, APEX, all the different things are in place here within Arkansas, utilizing them in their specialties to actually help you navigate. Because a lot of it, I mean, moving back here, a lot of those business aspects I couldn't navigate here within Arkansas without the assistance of the SBA or APEX or ADC. I might be getting those acronyms, I might be getting that wrong. Utilizing those resources is one of the biggest things, because you may think that you can do everything, but you can't. And when you hear that business aspect, there's a lot of things that you're going to try to do. But utilize those resources, network. And when you get ready to start scaling, do your due diligence and make sure, I mean, there's nothing better than small banking business relationships. Because you're going to need resources. Unless you got a big pot of money, and you got a big pot of money, you're probably not in this business arena anyway. But one key thing would be just the relationship that you have with the smaller banks. I mean, the big credit unions are great, but that smaller banker, that small town banker that you can call on the cell phone and say, hey, this is what I got going on. We'll come in, stop by your office, and look at basically your scope of what you got coming in, what you got going out, and how are you trying to grow. That was key for us.
Any special banks you want to shout out that any of you have a relationship with? No partnerships on record?
Maybe. And actually, when I started off, I did start account with a large bank, but I did go to a smaller bank, which is known by First Security, but it's a different First Security from here in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Eagle Bank. I got so many. Eagle Bank, small Eagle Bank, but it's different from the Eagle Bank that's here in Arkansas. But since I moved to Arkansas and started relationships, I've worked with First Security here within Little Rock. They've been great. Some of you may see that building sitting on the corner. They were great. The SBA helped me get that, knowing how to work that program. And I do have relationships with other banks that I haven't probably initiated with, because they look at you and they're like, okay, this is business. So they're going to keep those relationships. So when they invite me out, I go to those events as well, just to keep those relationships in place.
Good deal. So the Teal Grill is not the only thing that First Security has to offer us. They've got some relationship and financial advice as well. I'll toss this question to the entire panel, and we'll start with April here. How long had you been in business when you realized the opportunity to scale was available, and how did you know it was time to scale up?
Okay, so I took over in 2014, and it took me about 30 days of going through SAM.gov to realize, man, I need some help. So that's what, I mean, I probably went at it for about 90 days, and I would bid on things, and this is the truth. The winning bid, I would be cheaper than the winning bid. I would be just way below. And then everything in the federal government, you can go back and you can look it up, who won, you can look up that company. These were companies that had just started. So I understand you got to take your licks, you got to form that relationship. So if they had been in business for years and they already had a good relationship with the distributor, I kind of get that, but man, there has to be a better way. So that's kind of what drove me. It wasn't initially to the SBA, but it was PTAC. I know there's a different acronym now, but ATAC. So then they had all these classes. Back then they were in person. I think now they have them online. And but it was how to do business with the federal government. I went to every single class that they offered. They taught you how to read the solicitation, so then you know, this isn't for me, I'm wasting my time. But it's very, very, very time consuming in the beginning. You got to learn all the stuff you don't already know. And then even once you learn it, then you got to take the time to sift through everything and see what you want to pursue and what you don't. And then even the ones you do pursue, after all the time you've invested up to that point, you're only going to win a fraction of them. So the hard thing, I think, is for me, because I wanted to balance both. I wanted to grow commercially, but also wanted to grow in the government sector, just in case one was bad, hopefully the other wasn't. But then when you do that on both sides, it takes an immense amount of time. So that was a struggle. I answered your question.
You did. I have a follow-up question, but I want to give the gentleman an opportunity to answer as well. Either of you all want to respond to that one that April just did? I can repeat it for you if you would like. How long had each of you been in business when you realized the opportunity to scale was available to you, and then how did you know it was time to scale up?
I think there's a couple of different milestones or phases that took place there, because I actually started off as employee 0001. I actually sat on a government site for about 2.5 years as a platform configuration engineer. Did that for about 2.5 years and was realizing, okay, if I was going to get anything else out of this company, I had to get up and start walking the streets and start getting those relationships. So that was the initial scouting of it. And we started off putting somebody to backfill in that position and started growing that. But that 2.5 years sitting on contract allowed me to actually win that contract as a client and came back around. But even there and going to the production side of the house, we came back in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, 2016. We actually stood up the office here and started on production. We actually had 4 to 6 analysts that was on that work at the time. And it was going great. And COVID happened, all that stuff. And so after COVID and things started picking up, it got to a point that, I couldn't manage the production, keep up with GovWin or SAM.gov, write proposals, do the budget, do payroll. I mean, at some point, you just have to bring somebody in to do all that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because you're going to drive yourself into the ground. So at that point, as we really started growing from that, I would say probably about 2018, 2019, really, as of late, I brought in some new staff just because I can't do everything. I can't manage everything. And it's hard when you start a small business because you want to know everything that's going on. It's kind of funny now because I don't talk to everybody. Everybody don't reach out to me like they used to because I've got a chief operations officer, VP of operations and production. So they're maintaining all the production timelines. Before, I used to be like, okay, hey, where are we at with this? Because this is good. Not that I don't have a bigger picture of it, but they are pushing me away. So,
Did you want to add?
Well, just a couple of grain of salt, if you would. The need for scaling, oftentimes when you start a small business that you build from the ground, you feel it. You actually, you have no choice. You get to a point where you are literally forced by the workload to make move. In my case, like Eric, I used to do all from estimating, bookkeeping, to do the work itself, engineering. I mean, it's just so much for one person to handle, mostly on government contracting. So after a while, bidding project, getting project, you start by getting typical labor, what we call 1099, no full-time employee to help you. That's how I started before I get someone full-time, because full-time is a commitment. So we start with those part-time, with those contracting, 1099. And then we had a very good project with the help of the SBA. We had a good project at the Air Force, and that helped us really bring, folks as full-time now. So we had a couple of people as a full-time. So my advice would be, if you want to scale, scale as a function of your income, of your sales. At least in my case, I won't scale because I have a hope that I have a couple contracts coming in the future. I scale based on my current sales as a function of that, to make sure that once you hire somebody, make somebody leave the job to come working for you, you have the possibility to carry them for a few years in the future. So yeah, so my advice would be to always base on your sales rather than your projection. I mean, if you're a big company, small company for sales. If you're a bigger company, you can probably scale based on your projection. But a small company, usually if you base on projection and something happened to fail, where you're going to end up on the floor, because we have very low portion. fall onto. So we're not allowed to make a mistake, at least minimum as much as we can.
So with that in mind, motivation and confidence is something that I'm hearing you guys talk about. And in at least two of you have referenced that you put in a bid for something and you didn't get it that first time. You had to circle back. What keeps you motivated and confident enough to not underbid yourself, but to keep placing those bids out there so that you could be one of those contracts so you can land one of those contracts that will help you continue to scale up? Anyone can chime in and answer.
I think it's one of those things, I mean, Emo said it a little while ago, you have to love what you do. And so I think that's what is that grit inside of a small business owner, is you're going to fail so many times before you succeed. And then eventually those successes kind of start linking together. But I mean, it was so frustrating. I go home, my husband was a great sounding board, and I just, within a few hours, I'd say, okay, well, forget about that one and move on to the next one. And I think that probably just comes from something inside if you are motivated for your business, because otherwise it's very frustrating if you don't have a real passion for either your field or your business or whatever it is that you're working with.
Another question for the entire group here. What did you do to prepare? Like Emo said that it was a feeling. You knew it was time to scale up. So give us maybe your top 3 things that you did to prepare for your growth, and what were some of those challenges that you overcame in that process?
Just to kind of add up to the point, when I say a feeling, and I hope when I say feeling, doesn't mean that if you have business, you work one morning, you feel like you want to scale, you should scale. No, that's not. When I say feeling, I say based on your books, based on your income, based on your ratio. And also feeling is probably a stretch of a word, but you have to have probable numbers that you rely on to before you can scale. So maybe feeling was a loose word, but just to put it out there. But if you don't mind, can you repeat the question?
I can. Your top 3 things that you did to prepare for growth, and what were some of the challenges that you overcame in that process?
For growth, obviously, for me, the first thing was the possibility first, which was the project that will help us grow, or projects for this case, was to get a project first, and that's where the big help. That's where most of us need the help the most in getting those projects put in front of contracting officer that will accept our proposal. And again, I keep referring, but the SBA was a pivotal aspect of it in helping us get contracts. So once you get a contract, then you have something to rest on, and he opened door for you to bring employees. And now that was a challenge. Find qualified employees to help. It's not easy nowadays. You have a choice. You can find somebody that's have 20 years experience and pay him 100,000 plus, or you can find someone that you can work with, train, and send to training, and start with a wage that you can handle. So that is a balance. If you want to scale, also know that scale comes with the employee, how much you willing to pay for employee. You can get somebody that's perfect in the field, asking 120,000, but they will write out your proposal, do everything. But can you pay 120,000 to the employees if you're not paying yourself that much? So you can get someone that you probably pay lesser than that, but you can cheat, right? Yeah, you can go together with a person, and that person will eventually make the salary they want to, whatever 6-figure is, but that will be 5 years down the road, or 6-7 years. Then the company itself have grown from them. So yeah, I think it's important to know what you can do. So when you bring someone to help you, that person is a complement of you as much as you can. So those were the main 2 hurdles: was employee, contract. Yeah, for me.
Thank you, April.
Sure. Okay, so I would say probably the three top things were the key hires, that were specialized in whatever that growth was, and then I had intentionally saved money to pay for the hires, to Emo's point, and then I worked real hard to come up with a strategy so that kind of my goals built on each other, almost like a little building block. So if one succeeded, it kind of fuel the other one and vice versa. So we ended up kind of going out as a general contractor, and so that I needed a really key hire there. And then at the same time, we expanded into installing fire sprinklers. And so if one succeeded, if I got jobs as the GC, then those would then of course, we'd self-perform the fire protection part. And then if we won some fire sprinkler install jobs, and it just opened up for relationships and other things. So for me, it was important that one built on the other. That was kind of the overall goal to get where I wanted to get. I needed both to fuel the other.
I mean, definitely everything they said is definitely on point when they start talking about some of those key things. From my aspect, I would initially say just, you have to plan it. Really have to plan around when you actually go on looking at the employees. Employees are hard to come by, the key hires. Just because with the key hires, I've always had a mentality to work with a company before that. They didn't mind doing surge type of work. With that surge work, they would hire 20, 30, 40 people. 90 days later, they were getting them on. Well, I always had a plan that if I'm going to hire somebody and bring them on, I'm looking for the long term, a long outlook. Because people have family lives and everything else. So the last thing I want to do is make a couple extra dollars and bring somebody on and fire. Unless I did. That's a 1099 where they know they come in some work. So I try to plan that out. And planning that out, I look at the financial aspect of it. Who can support that growth and try to get that growth in place before I actually, make that commitment. And the last thing, the third thing, I wouldn't say last, but one of the third things is I try to get some of these larger companies to commit to. I mean, a lot of them won't put it on paper, but I try to get them to commit to me because they need us to do a lot of work as well. And if you need me to do that work, how long are you going to sustain that work? So in that planning aspect, I look at that and say, okay, I can bring all these resources, but I'm not bringing them all for 90, 120 days. I need some longevity. So all that falls in that plan.
So quality employees or key employee hires, making sure we have the finances available to sustain salaries, and then a very solid strategic plan. I like it. There we go. We did start a little behind schedule, but I have another question. If the audience is not prepared to start asking questions, I see people itching to ask questions. We will move along. Okay, I saw the young lady here in the front row, and then this lady here on the second row. So if you would you can stand and tell us who you are, and then ask a question to our panelists.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jessica Willis with Sweet Autumn Brewery. I am also the independent contractor for Government Supply Services. I had a question for the panel, of course. So I know, April, you say, I'm sorry.
No, you good. Go ahead.
Okay, so I know April stated that she worked with other companies to now provide sprinklers as one of their services. How would a company go about working or partnering with you all? But then on the other hand, how would you prefer for someone to try to do business with you as far as, like, for instance, I have an embroidery business. What is your preference of how someone would approach you with that compared to doing a partnership to win a bid because you provide a service and I provide partial of the services that bid meets, if that makes sense?
Specifically for embroidery, or
For both. Yeah, embroidery and government supply services.
okay. So part of that, everybody has different certifications. So if it were a government job specifically, especially if you're looking on SAM.gov and maybe it's a set aside for a service-disabled veteran, then you would look for somebody and say, hey, I can fulfill this contract. Can the two of us work together and both contribute so that the government ultimately gets what they need? So part of that, I think, would be on your end to see what can you do, and then where are you short? Is there a certification you need? Who do you need to partner with? And then you go find somebody that would kind of be a good match for what you can contribute.
Well, I guess my question is, do you allow that? Does your company allow a person? Oh.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle, and I own a local food truck here. And then I also own a nonprofit called Mind My Black Owned Business. So food truck Southern Pasta Twist, nonprofit Mind My Black Owned Business. But my question is for April. You stated that you had challenges from the outside world, such as economy, your customer wants changing, and so on. So having gone through this, how do you deal with being adaptable and foreseeing upcoming challenges as a small business to prevent bottom line losses?
Good question. So for me, I go back to when I made those key hires, like that was one thing. Number one, I want people who are smarter than me kind of surrounding me. And so I depend on them a lot. And especially for the sprinkler side, we have this conversation, you know, that this is kind of, it's always up and down. So sometimes we'll bid 10 things in a week, and then the next week we're not bidding anything. And I'll say, hey, what do you think? You know, with this dry spell, what happens 90 days from now, 6 months from now? And so I lean on these people that I've hired because I hired them thinking they were wise enough in their field to, you know, teach me things that I don't know about those niche things. And then part of it is, you know, the emos part. It's hard for a small business, but I really try to be a good steward of what I have because I mean, the economy will always have ups and downs, and so I try to stash a little back, at least for a time period, so that I can, you know, maintain for a certain time period while things kind of even out a little bit. And so I would say depend on the people around you that you hire, and then try and be prepared for the unexpected as much as possible. It's tough when you're starting out to have those surpluses.
Did anyone else want to address any other questions, or we have another one from the floor here? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Jay Daniels, and I'm with SJ Medical Supply and Equipment. This question is for anyone on the panel. So I hear strategic plan, I hear about hiring once you get to that point. So I've done pretty much a lot of direct. I'm also going into contract and bidding, so I'm where you guys are at this point. As far as hiring on a professional, when looking for the person for the job, what exactly route did you take to hire that person? Was this person specifically for contracting, or was it for just overall administration, or what, I guess, characteristic did you look into to make for sure that you hired the right person so that you as an owner could concentrate on the bigger fish too as well if you are the person that would be doing contracting bidding, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So for me, when I hire, at least at the point where I was, first hire, since my constraint were finance, I can only pay so much for the position. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to hire somebody that knows this much, or do you want to hire somebody that you can get along with? My opinion, the latter is the better. I hire somebody that we can talk like family, we can talk like friends. Even though the person does not have a knowledge of certain area of my business, I will hire them knowing that we can train. I can bring them up to speed. So yeah, that was, for me, that was the key. And also I utilize a hiring platform. There's several, in my case, I utilize Indeed to hire. And when you utilize, and with Indeed, as a small business, and again, you have to be tricky because Indeed, they will charge you. They will charge you a lot if you don't pay attention to your account. They charge you every day. So you have to be careful. Once you have an applicant, to be proactive, go and check the profile, the resume. And by just looking at the resume and what they've done, one example is, you want to hire somebody that say, well, a simple example, architect. You want to hire, if you have an architect in this room, you have two employees coming. You have one is one of the best architects in the world, and another one is just a no-name guy that you don't know. Now you want to hire somebody, you ask the expert architect, how tall is that building? The expert architect will tell you, well, if you make this formula, you add this, you add that, and then with this, he will give you exactly, let's say 114 feet, for instance. That's someone that knows everything in and out. Now you have the other guy next to him, you hire him, you ask him a question, how tall is this building? You look up and see the sun and say, well, with the shadow of the building on the floor, I can measure the shadow of the building is 10 feet For instance, with the shadow and the ratio, the shadow, you can know how tall the building is. So this is someone that just figured it out. But he didn't know the formula, but he just figured out on an instant, on site, and he will give you a result that pretty close to the original one. I would rather hire that person that in any situation can try to find a way out than someone that's stuck in one, in a box, so to speak, even though the person knows everything as far as the project, but you have to provide them everything. You have to provide them formula. You have to provide them a note. From where I come from, as far as engineering, the good engineer is not a person that remembers all the formula. It's a person that knows where to go get the formula. So you can hire someone that memorizes all the height of the building, or you can hire someone that costs less, but we learn and come up with way to figure out those heights. So I'm not sure if this is a long way of answering the question, but when you hire two people, you have to base on that. It's not only knowledge; it's also how well you get along with that person. It's more important how long you get along with that person than someone that knows everything. Because I've worked for other companies, and I can tell you, when you're on the other end of the stick, where you work with somebody that you don't get along, it's hard to get off. It's hard to get off the bed in the morning to go to work. So yeah, I like the other ones.
If I can add to that, it definitely depends on how many people you're trying to hire, the different platforms that are out there. One key thing I would say, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is for me when you start going through LinkedIn. If you have a LinkedIn account, I say get a LinkedIn account. If you're an entrepreneur looking to hire people, use LinkedIn. To get out there and search for individuals. You can almost scale and filter out who you need, who you don't need. If you get to a point, like we use what is called applicant portal, which is a platform that actually goes out and push your requirements, or they push your openings out to Indeed, different different platforms, and it actually kind of manages it for you. So many people, not so many people apply, but you get different people apply. You get some people that don't meet the requirements, and I think they just sit back and send my resume here anyway. But they have different applications. We use, like I say, applicant pro, which works best for us, works well for us. And the key aspect of those individuals, those key hires that you have to make, sometimes you're going to sit down and talk to them 2 or 3, maybe 4 times before you bring them on, just to see if they're going to bring to the table what you actually need or what you actually want to actually get you to that next level. And it costs, a lot of time it costs.
I would just say, if you're talking specifically about federal government, I have to plug their ears over there, but the only consistent thing about the federal government is they're extremely inconsistent. So I would use a lot of caution to hire somebody on the pretense that they're going to be able to give you federal work, because they can have all. I mean, at one point, I'm going to hire this retired contracting officer, and they'll be able to do all these things, but it just depends on what the government's needs are, and you just don't know. They don't show all their cards, so. And that's a very specialized example, but for federal, I don't hire on myself. I don't hire until I have the job, if it's federal, because there's just no tell. You can think, I got it. You don't got it until it's signed.
And they don't pay you for that. And they don't pay for that.
Okay, guys, we're nearing the end of our time together. So if you all would tell them how they can get in contact with you, or if you have a business page that you would like for them to follow, this would be the time to share that. And then we will wrap up with thank yous, and we'll be all getting ready to head over to the expo next door and the mixer at the 12th Street Substation. So I'll give you guys an opportunity to do that, and then we'll finish out our thank yous.
Yes, there's a website for us, buymetechnology.com, and I also have a business card that I'm going to pass out for someone that wants some. I pass the card, and the card have all our info, cell phone, company phone, and all that stuff. So I'll pass out some business card.
I can pass out business cards too, and our website's aafireandsafetycompany.com. And all my contact is on there too.
I may be a little biased towards her because I'm in April too, so y'all should support April. No,
NelsonIntelligenceSolutions.com. I have plenty of business cards, and I tell you, don't hesitate. If you got a question, anything I can help you with, call me, send me a text, whatever you need. 9 out of 10 times I know get my phone around somewhere. And I would say utilize resources. If somebody tells you they're going to help you utilize some resources. Thank you.
So make sure to utilize one of the resources that we have in the room, the Small Business Administration, and all the things that they offer. So let's give a thank you to them. A round of applause there. Another resource that we have here, the actual Willie Hinton Resource Center with the City of Little Rock's Build Academy or our Emprende Academy for our small business owners. You guys can visit our website, that's littlerock.gov, and apply there. Shameless plug, as the Communications and Marketing Manager, please go follow us on all social media platforms at City Little Rock. You can definitely stay up to date with information and things there. And then again, we just like to thank the city for hosting this. And then it was, like I said, it was powered by our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And access is a part of equity, and we wanted to make sure that our residents have access to the resources they need to be successful business owners in our city. So with that being said, thank you all for coming out. Do not hesitate to journey across the street there to our expo and our mixer. Thank you all very much.